Hey, it's David, and welcome back to another episode of the Reddit Story podcast.
I married for the second time to a young woman who had a troubled past. When we got married, she already had a daughter whom she was raising alone. Once we moved in together, we quickly adjusted to each other and lived as a happy family. Our daily life consisted of the usual routine of home and work. My daughter was often sick, and Linda would take her to a specialist in another city. We spent weekends together, sometimes in our country house or in nature. Life went on as usual. On Saturdays, my wife would take my daughter to meet her ex-husband and return in the evening. After a year of living together, I began to notice that my wife was receiving expensive gifts that I did not give her. When I asked her about it, she would get defensive and talk about unexpected bonuses, pay raises, and sales. I didn't pay much attention to it and wasn't the least bit concerned. I had enough money to feed my family and to take a family trip to the seaside. I even managed to save a little for a new car. But one day my wife informed me that her Saturday outings were no longer possible because her ex-husband had gone abroad for an extended period of time. Oddly enough, the trips and gifts stopped abruptly. I asked my wife about this, and she confessed that after picking up the child, her ex-husband would take her to his place where the two of them would be alone together. He would then give her valuable gifts and walk her to the bus stop. Although I was upset, I forgave my wife and tried to put the incident behind me. Unexpectedly, my wife's company was acquired and underwent a reorganization that resulted in some employees being laid off. Unfortunately, my wife was among them. Despite this setback, she remained relatively calm and started looking for a new job. However, finding suitable positions proved difficult, and the search dragged on. Linda became increasingly irritable and discouraged. One day, lying together in bed, she sighed and said, "Single women have it so much easier. They're always in demand, make good money, and don't have to worry about being laid off when times get tough." Intrigued, I asked what she meant. She explained that those who refuse the advances of their superiors end up getting fired. And when looking for a new job, potential employers make it clear that a lot of things are decided by close attention to superiors, which means that getting a good position won't be easy. Is this the case everywhere? My wife asked. Well, I replied, there is one place where it doesn't matter, and my friend works there too. By the way, she said she could help us. Curious, I inquired what that place was. It's a 911 emergency dispatcher, I said. Despite the difficulties we encountered, Linda and I were able to work out our problems. Eventually, my wife found a new job fairly quickly, and life got back on track. One day, when Linda returned from her night shift and wanted to go to bed, I had just woken up and was about to leave for work. Suddenly, I noticed a hickey on her neck and another on her shoulder. As I leaned over to kiss her goodbye after shaving, I realized that the hickeys quickly mysteriously disappeared literally 5 minutes later. She quickly covered them up with cream. Throughout the workday, I was consumed with my thoughts. It was obvious that she was wrong. What remained unclear was the extent of her betrayal. In the evening, I casually suggested we drink some homemade wine. Linda agreed. I continued to pour glass after glass as we talked quietly about everything that had happened during the day. Eventually, we finished 2 bottles. And then I started asking around. "Okay, sweetie, now please tell me, how did those hickeys get on your neck? Explain to me how it all started. How long have you been cheating on me? What are we gonna do? You see, my boss liked me. We became friends, and he complimented me on my desk and even kissed my neck. He also promised me a new position and a raise for my sterling work." I thought about what my wife had said. Perhaps things weren't as awful as they seemed. I would save my paycheck to buy a new car, and with my wife's income, we could buy all the necessities. So I decided to give Linda another chance after her affair with her boss. I wanted to believe that it was a one-time mistake and that she would continue to be faithful. Over the next few months, however, more and more signs of infidelity began to appear. I found scraps of paper with hearts and men's names on them. Unfamiliar colognes were left on her clothes. New jewelry appeared that I didn't buy. When I confronted Linda about the claims, she began to sling mud at me, claiming I was paranoid and making things up. She refused to admit fault, claiming that she had to stay late at work or attend important organization events. It was maddening. The final straw was when I walked into Linda's office early one morning to surprise her. Her coworker said she had a meeting with her boss. I didn't think anything bad until I got to the door and heard the sounds of kissing and clapping. Blood boiling, I swung the door open and saw a half-naked Linda and her boss on his desk. With an agonized scream, I lunged at the shocked man and punched him right in the nose. Linda shrieked, blood spurted from her nose, and her boss erupted into profanity. Security rushed to pull me away from my bloody lover. I shouted to Linda, "We're done. I gave you another chance, and you betrayed me again." Linda sobbed, apologizing and clinging to her now disheveled boss. Ignoring her hysterical pleas, I walked away in disgust. The events that followed were very unpleasant. Linda's boss threatened accusations, and she begged me to reconsider the divorce. My anger was replaced by sadness when I realized that Linda would never change. As painful as it was for me, I filed for divorce and cut ties. Linda continued her downward spiral, drinking heavily and changing scrappy men. Meanwhile, I began going to therapy and rebuilding relationships with old friends, gradually healing and rebuilding my broken trust. Through this experience, I realized that you can't force a man to be faithful if he wants to change. He'll find a way to betray you, no matter how many chances you give him. Breaking up with Linda was the hardest but best decision. Now I can look for a partner who is truly committed to me. I'm still in treatment, but I know I'll fall in love again. One day, the right woman is out there somewhere.